We all love superhero stories, and the only thing better than a superhero story is the origin story. And I remember the first time I saw the origin Superman story, or the origin Batman story. And I find that people have the same reaction when I talk about the origin story of knives. I'm a former Marine. I was a regular infantry guy. I carried a saw. I was in the first Gulf War. First knife I ever bought on my own. I bought a, what was it? It was a SOG Bowie that I still have in my safe. And the second knife I ever bought was when I got out of boot camp. I bought a KBAR. Now the knife looked exactly like this knife from World War II that's on display behind me, which says KA-BAR USMC, boom, that knife. So that knife's an easy imprint and requires no emotional buy-in. Every young guy who has graduated from boot camp has walked down to the PX and either bought or contemplated buying one of those or got one of those given to him by somebody meaningful in their life. So that style of knife, that kind of clip point Bowie with the leather stacked handle and a pommel, off the war knife, it's left a deep imprint on our culture, especially with young men. And I was, now years later, I own a knife company, and I was kind of in this retro frame of mind, like, what would I do if I founded KBAR? What would I do if the government came to me and said, hey, we need 100,000 of these knives? Except it wasn't during World War II, and people weren't handing in their pots and pans in big piles down on the town square to make airplane wheels. It was kind of a Jurassic Park moment where I said, spare no expense. How would I do this if I spared no expense? Make it with the premium material, make it the premium way, make it that covers every weakness from the original. So the original is an awesome product, and it has some weaknesses inherent to it. And it's still a wonderful product, and I still have one and I like them, and I'm friends with the company and it speaks to me. My first KBAR, I don't have anymore next to my SOG clip point Bowie. My first KBAR's in the coffin with my grandfather, and it was like I was deployed in the Middle East, my grandfather dies, and it was like I could go home and then everyone would have to do my work while I'm on deployment, or I could send something meaningful. And I made a choice standing in front of my battalion commander. I took my pocket knife, I cut my knife off of my gear that was taped on, I handed it to him and said, can you get this in my grandfather's coffin? And my dad put it in my grandfather's coffin. So the knife speaks to me in a really deep, visceral way. I've seen lots of folding versions and spin-off versions of the knife that, quite frankly, they were copies of a copy. Or they were copies of the original. They were a degradation. And I wanted to do a fixed blade version, my USMC Fighter, that is an homage and a whole different level. When you look at a new Porsche, nobody thinks that's a copy of a 1973 911 Porsche. They think, what a cool homage of a similar shape that is a goddamn rocket ship compared to the original. And that's what I wanted to do with the knife. I wanted to do something that was clearly inspired by, but a whole different level. And when you go from a $180 knife to a $650 knife, you get a whole different level. Different level of thickness, fit, finish, design, material. Every single bit from top to bottom is a whole elevation of experience. Is it necessary? No. It's for somebody who wants penultimate. Does it make sense? Maybe not. Maybe it's better to make a less expensive version. I didn't care. I wanted to make, and it wasn't for me to knock at KBAR or say I could do something better. It was a way for me to say, so cool, and I want to honor it with the space age version of the coolest version ever. So I came up with a knife that overcame some of the weaknesses of the design. The original design is kind of a rat tail design. It tapers down, and there's a little thin core down through the center, and it's peened over to hold on this pommel at the end. The leather can expand and shrink over the years, water can get in there, rust, and that transition from full blade width down to the skinny tang in the middle is a break point. So I wanted to make a knife that has no choke points. So if you take the handles and the fixtures off of my USMC Fighter, you will see a full thickness knife from tip to pommel that has no choke points where it narrows down. Oh, Greg, how do you do that? You got to put this hilt on here. I said, well, the hilt's just to keep your hand from slipping or to keep things from coming up and banging on your knuckles. That doesn't need to be the Jesus keeper. So why should we choke down the integrity of the whole knife to put that on there? Here's why you do it. I signed a contract to make 100,000 of them in 18 months. That's why you do it. But it's not 1939. So I said, well, let's make the hilt out of titanium, and let's make it out of two completely symmetrical, identical pieces that interlock with each other. And so they slip in around a very gentle radius that I learned from aviation design creates no stress points for a break. So that knife is full strength all the way through without any weak points. It's the toughest knife in the business. So that's how I got the hilt on there. And then it's full tang, sandwich construction with slabs that go on the side that are ergonomic and feel lovely and have a little more ergonomic rather than just round feel. And then the pommel that goes on the end kind of locks it all in. It's solid titanium, it screws on, and you can pop it off and disassemble that knife. It's a nuance of exceptionalism that I was striving for. And then I liked the knife so much, I was like, man, I can't walk around carrying a 14-inch long package of a knife on me all day long. I'd really like to have a pocket knife that had this same kind of zeitgeist to it. And so what I did is I took the fixed blade, took the best of it, and kind of put it into a folder. So let me show you. So this is my USMC fighter flipper that I carry, and this is my folder version of the fixed blade. Now, mine's got some jazzy shit on it because the guys were trying to blow me away for my birthday and make a cool knife, but here's what I wanted. I wanted this blade in my pocket. It is exactly the same blade. You want a big hilt on it because it's going to be a heavy use knife. So what do? Well, I turn the flipper tab into the hilt, and I can only really put it on the one side. If I put it up on this side, it kind of looks a little goofy for a pocket knife. And then what's one of the big things a soldier's going to use this knife for? Besides cutting, besides prying, besides maybe using it in close CQB, they might use it as a hammer because you're out in the field and you've got to do stuff from time to time, and you don't have a toolbox rolling around with you. And so you pull out your knife, and you want to use your firearm as a hammer? Use your knife as a hammer. And that backside is meant for hammering. So I wanted to make a folder that had that kind of toughness. So this backstrap clocks into here. It's so complicated and expensive to do this. You can truly use this pocket knife that you carry in your pocket to absolutely beat and smash on anything that you could with a fixed blade, and it won't do any damage to the folder. So although it just looks like a folder, there's a lot going on here. You can see the handle shape for the ergos that I wanted, the handle size, because I've got big hands, and when I grab onto a knife, I want it full using size. I don't want some little tiny thing in my hand. I feel like Lou Ferrigno holding a teacup, with my paw, it's made for my size. It's made the size, a very similar size to this handle here. Why? Because you might have gloves on. Why? Because you might be in a cold environment. You might be hunting and carry your knife when you hunt. You might be adventuring and carry your knife when you adventure. I always carried a knife when I adventured. And everybody now is into little delicate light things. You know what I was worried about? I was worried about getting stuck. I was worried about having to do something improvisational. I was worried about getting stranded. When we drove vehicles in the 70s and early 80s, we were driving older vehicles from the 50s and 60s. And you drive across a hunk of desert. You might have to fix your car with your knife. I know it sounds crazy, but that's where my magma solidified. That's the polarity that my soul solidified in, was in one where stuff kind of broke down. You had to fix it and you had to get home somehow. And every man in the back of their head is thinking about, every man worth his weight in feathers is thinking about a safety plan for him and the people with him. And if he's not, then he's missed out on manhood 101. And so this folder, this is meant to be stuck innocuously into your pocket, and as you go through your daily life, in your pocket is a knife you could go to war with. Everybody gets nervous at moments. Everybody is challenged at times. Everybody can be knocked off their game. Even the best of us who are the most confident, we can be knocked off our game. And every little bit that we can have in our universe, that I slide my hand into my pocket and I feel that thing there, I'm not saying I get my confidence from a knife or that anybody does, but I know people feel confident with better equipment. There's a reason why top tier people like the best stuff. And that's what this knife is. This knife and the one that we're offering to everybody, the knife that we're offering to everybody, I think is the coolest version of this knife. It's got a lot of contrasting color and tone. It's muted. It's bare metal, it's bare titanium. The part that goes down in your pocket, different than the blade. The blade is acid washed and tumbled. What's great about this surface is it absorbs use and looks good after oiling. Black hardware to match the black back strap. Subtle contrasting tones, colors, and finishes, but all from a similar kind of muted kind of zeitgeist. And that's the USMC Fighter Flipper. The best version I have ever seen of the best version I have ever seen of the quintessential American knife kind of made the world free in 1945.